Will the 12-volt battery-powered die grinder cut it for you? We'll let you decide when we get back. I'm Tim Johnson. You're watching Shop Tool Reviews. Today we have the Milwaukee M12 FUEL 1/4 inch straight die grinder. So this is their 12-volt tool that turns up to 21,000 RPMs. Has a 3-mode speed control right here on the top of the tool. That's something unlike its cousins in the pneumatic world or in the air world. You really can't adjust the RPMs, or you can adjust them by air pressure, but you don't know how many RPMs it's turning, whereas with electronics, we can actually max those RPMs, and this maxes out at 21,000 RPMs. You get a 1/4 inch collet, and it's a 1/4 inch safety collet, and that's one of our tips today. By the way, I've got 5 tips for this tool throughout this review. Now, maybe they're not all tips, but let's call them informative nuggets. So I've got 5 nuggets for you that we're going to be going over, and we're going to jump right into it when we start talking about the features of this tool. So let's do that. Let's talk about the features. We'll actually use it on a few different materials, and then we'll come back and just kind of wrap it up, and we'll go back over those 5 nuggets. This is the Milwaukee M12 FUEL 2486, and it is their straight 1/4 inch die grinder. Now this is the cousin or the brother or the sister or the stepbrother, I don't know, whatever you want to call it, to the 2485, which was their 90-degree die grinder that came out maybe a month or two or a few months before this one did. And like I said, it has been on the market a few months now, but we haven't reviewed it here at Shop Tool Reviews. Now, first thing, some users that have been using these have noticed something, and it's been of concern to them, and they've reached out to Milwaukee. I've seen things on blogs and on YouTube comments, and that is the flex that's in the middle of this body. This is your first tip, if you will. Maybe it's just informative. Maybe it's not so much a tip. Anyway, so right here in the middle of this body, you see I can flex that tool. It is made in there. That was engineered in there. That was on purpose to keep vibration down. So that's made to have flex. You can see the screws around there. So do not be alarmed when you're using this and you may be putting a little pressure on it and you have some flex in there. That is made to do that. Again, it's made to flex so it doesn't break, so it doesn't crack. So you'd have to put quite a good amount of force on there to actually break anything. So again, as you're using this, if you're sensing a little bit of flex, don't worry about it. That's made to do it. That was built into the tool. So you have a 3-mode control here for speeds. And speed 3 I know is 21,000 RPM max, which is good because most of your higher RPM tools are a max of 25,000 RPM. So you'll be well within range when you're using the right tools, by the way. Don't use a wire brush that's not rated for that. Anyway, and then 1 and 2, it really doesn't say in the user manual of what those are. I would assume it's something like 10,000 and 15,000 RPMs. I know in the little brother or the brother or whatever, again, on the 2485, I think it is a 4-mode, and I believe it was like 10, 15, 20, and 25,000 RPM, because this is a higher RPM tool. Yeah, max of 24,500. So anyway, this is a max of 21,000 RPM. So again, I would assume something like 10, 15, and 21,000, but basically 1 and 2 are less than 3. They say it's a 0.3 horsepower, so that's going to put it in line with a lot of your 1/4 horsepower air or pneumatic powered die grinders. You get an LED light here right on the front, which I like that because quite frankly on this one, a lot of times my hand gets in the way of this light on the 2485 because it's trying to shine down here, and sometimes I put my hand back here. So I like this light being right here on the snout where I'm actually shining it. So if I'm doing a little port massaging or something like that, I'm shining the light exactly where I need it. Now, here is tip number 2, and this is I'm not going to say the most important one, but this one will really tick you off if you don't listen to this. And I've had this happen many times on the other one. In fact, I found it out the hard way myself. Some machinists and woodworkers are going to say, well, I know that. But anyway, on these tools, they have a safety collet. In other words, if I take this collet off, collet nut, you see the collet stays with the nut. Now, I can separate this. And you see here, I've got a nice groove here in the top of the collet nut, but it's got a lip on it as well. And it's made to be one piece with the nut. So don't ever put these in as two pieces. Make sure that you snap this back in into the collet nut before you put it into the tool. And let me show you something else. This is still part of the same tip. So once I tighten this down, so I only have to tighten it down once, if you will. I'll use my included wrenches. Well, you'd think I would have done this before. There we go. Okay, so now we're tightened down. So let's say we use the tool, blah, blah. I need to take this off. So I'm going to put my wrench on here. I'm going to break it free. So now that nut is free, okay? That tool is locked in place still. It's not going to come out. People put these in the vise, hammer them out. Do not do that. This is a safety collet. Now let me show you. So even though this nut is broke free, watch this. Put my wrench back on here, back this nut out. It gets tight again as I'm loosening, okay? Put the wrench back on here. Break it free one more time. Now look at there. Okay, so that's the safety collet. That's basically, even if this nut breaks free, it's not going to release this tool until you break free. Basically, once you just backed it off, it's just kind of sitting here like this, but until you back it off enough to release the collet, release the cone out of the tool, it's not going to let that tool fly free. So again, it's kind of a two-step process. Once you break it free, spin it off a few more turns till it gets tight again, break it free again, and then it will let that tool free. If you don't do that, you're going to be one mad joker. In fact, I did an actual video on that because so many people were getting frustrated at this tool here. So I released a video just showing how to release that collet nut. So remember that. So let's go ahead and take this tool and use it on a few things and see how well it does. Okay, we're going to use this on several things, on several different materials, but just wanted to point out something. So on the 2486, Milwaukee recommends using 2-inch and smaller bits or accessories in here. So like a 3-inch cutoff wheel is not recommended for this tool, nor is a 3-inch sanding disc or any type of 3-inch tool. They really don't recommend. So they're saying 2-inch and smaller. You know, 1-inch burr bits, you name it. All those should be fine for this, but just nothing bigger than 2-inch. Now, with that, here's another tip. You can easily find 3-inch cutoff wheels. Now, I usually buy a lot of this stuff at my welding supply store just because they carry a lot of this stuff. But I went in and I said, hey, I need some 2-inch cutoff wheels. They said, we don't have any. What's that, for a Dremel? I said, no, I need 2-inch cutoff wheels. Anyway, so they have plenty of 3-inch. So if you have a cutoff tool, like Milwaukee's cutoff tool, and use these wheels, typically when they get down too small to be able to be useful on these, it's perfect. It's down to 2 inches. Well, it might be 2 1/4, but I won't tell Milwaukee if you don't. Anyway, so when you get done with them on your other cutoff tool, pull them off, and then they're perfect to be used on your new 2486 or 2485. Anyway, I just wanted to point that out. The 2-inch ones may be tougher to find. I don't know. Maybe you can find them at Home Depot. I'll check and see, but I'm sure you can buy them online. So you can buy your 2-inch wheels, or you can use your worn down 3-inch wheels, as long as make sure they're not like destroyed on the edges and stuff like that. If you're taking care of them, then you can use them. But anyway, 2-inch and smaller accessories on this, and make sure, especially when you're using something like a wire wheel or like flap disc, make sure it says max RPM of at least 21,000. This says 25,000. Usually if they're rated for 20,000 plus, it'll typically say 25,000, which this tool turns, I think, 21 or 21.5. So anyway, let's get started. I'm just going to run everything on speed 3 unless I specify so. And I'm going to put my cutoff wheel in here to start with, and we'll do several cuts. It's probably what's going to be used most often on this machine, I would think anyway. Cutting off small parts and things like that. So here's a piece of, it's probably 14 gauge sheet metal. And you see it cuts rather easily. Now if I really push it, I mean, if I really push it, I can slow it down, or if I go on the flat piece. So I can push it in the cutoff, but I am putting quite a bit of pressure, at least to me for a small tool, to actually stop that bit. And it will go into cutout to save the tool. But again, if I take it easy, it will cut that no problem at all. Now obviously, cutting a piece of aluminum is not going to be a big deal either. Eighth-inch aluminum, not an issue. So let's talk real world stuff. You know, what are you going to be cutting with this? What are you going to be using this on? And I would think something like a piece of exhaust pipe. You know, you're up under a car, you're in a tight space, so you're looking for that place where you don't want to drag out the air hose, or maybe you don't have a compressor or what have you. So is it going to work for you to cut that exhaust pipe? So you see, cutting that exhaust pipe's not going to be a problem either. You can easily cut through there. Now it is going to start eating up wheels. As you see, I'm eating it up quite steadily right there. But it will cut through exhaust pipe, no problem at all. Even change out my bit. Okay, after that, let's see, I've still got two. It just showed three, so it must have just jumped to two. So anyway, even an exhaust flange, let's look here. So no problem cutting that exhaust flange either. So cutting exhaust pipe, cutting small sheet metal, not going to be a big issue for this. Again, is it going to cut it like a Sawzall and bear down on it? No. But will it get done what you need to get done? I think so. So here's a piece of hardened steel rod. I don't know, it's probably 1/2 inch thick. So that's a great point right there. Now, can I cut this tool out when cutting something like, hardened 1/2 inch steel axle shaft or whatever that is? Absolutely. This is not going to be the strongest tool in the world. But can I feather through it and cut it if I need to? Yes, I can. You know, it's not going to cut as quick as sheet metal, but it will make that cut. And as you learn where that cutout is, you can kind of feather this through and make a lot nicer cut without it cutting out. Okay, so now I'm going to change out to a burr bit here to do some massaging on some aluminum, and I'm going to give you the third tip. So again, I'm going to tighten this collet down. Now we're locked in. So when you're dealing with aluminum, aluminum is very soft metal, as you're probably aware, and we've got a carbide burr tip here. Now here's what happens typically in steel. This will just kind of eat through steel, no problem. It'll sling the bits everywhere. However, in aluminum, here's what happens. Now what we have is a bunch of little aluminum bits caught in this burr here. And what happens is it just quits cutting. And it just doesn't want to cut anymore because all those burrs are filled with aluminum. Now, here's how we can remedy that. And quite frankly, sometimes it'll even fix it. So we'll see if it actually fixes it here or if I have to change a burr bit. So I'm going to take some wax. Now this is drill cutting wax or made for drill bits and things like this. But really and truly, you could probably take some candle wax and do this as well. WD-40 works, but not near as well. But just spin it up, get some wax in there, and that will keep those burrs, and it might even clean this bit out. We'll see. That will keep that burr clean, and you see it cleaned it out pretty good. You get some more in there, make sure. So just every once in a while, dip it in the wax. And by the way, they do make specific aluminum burr bits for cutting aluminum. The burrs are a little bit bigger, broader, set apart more. But again, if you just use some wax, it will work just perfectly. So there is your next tip. So I think that's three tips for you so far. So will this work for doing aluminum work and porting things out? Yeah, absolutely. If you're doing a whole cylinder head, probably not the greatest tool. It's not going to last that long. So go to its bigger brother, the M18. But if you were porting a motorcycle head, something like that, it might be great for you. Anyway, just a little bit of a smaller tool to do it. By the way, you can see this mesh grill going to work here as well, stopping all those aluminum particles from flying in the motor there. Those stainless mesh guards there are doing a great job of where that intakes that air. And by the way, after all this, I'm still at 2 bars on the small 2 amp hour battery. Actually, that was the fourth tip. The first tip was the flex in the handle. The second tip was the collet nut. So make sure you back off the collet nut twice to pull the tools out. And then tip number 3 was using your old cutoff wheels out of your 3-inch cutoff tool to work in here as a 2-inch. And then tip number 4 was using wax to do a aluminum porting or aluminum burr bit usage. Okay, so I know I haven't given you the 5th nugget yet or the 5th tip. I'm about to do so. So if you're using this tool a lot, if this is something that you think is going to work for you and you're going to use it a lot, so you think that you're going to use this several times a day for any type of long period, so you're cutting lots of sheet metal or you're cutting a lot of exhaust pipe or you're doing port work, whatever it is you're going to be doing and you're going to be using this tool a lot, I would highly recommend that you step up to a larger capacity battery. Now you're probably saying, well, that's not really a tip. Well, I'm just letting you know right away that if you're going to use it a lot, it is going to burn through batteries. Now, to give you an idea, everything you saw me cut on here, and we actually did a little bit more as well, but I did it all on this battery, and we're still at 2 bars. Now, with an M12 battery, what we typically notice in their M12 power tools, we love them, but that's where, kind of 2 bars and down, so that 50% capacity of the battery and down is where we really start to see that power drop off. So the larger capacity battery you can use with that, the less you're going to see that happen, and the less you're going to get frustrated of the tool cutting out or the tool stopping, things like that. So again, on that top 3 and 4 cell of the battery, we see that the tool puts out all that power that it needs to, does pretty good at cutting through things. Can I stop that wheel? Absolutely. Again, this is a 12-volt tool, but it still does remarkably well for the size and weight of the tool, and the portability you get is a huge plus. But again, going to highly recommend a larger capacity battery if you're going to be using this tool a lot. So let's go back over our tips, if you will. So number one was the actual flex in the tool. Number two was the safety collet. So remember, you need to basically loosen this twice. You're going to break it free, turn it a few turns, it's going to get tight again, break it free again, and then that collet will slide right out. So don't get frustrated at that. Now, tip number three was actually using your old 3-inch cutoff wheels as your 2-inch cutoff wheels. So if you have a 3-inch cutoff tool or a typical cutoff tool, if you will, after the blade gets too small to use in that, take it off, and it's usually about 2 inches, and use it in your other tool, or just order some 2-inch blades. Just trying to save you a little money, if you will. Tip number four was, if you're using these burr bits in aluminum, get you some cutting wax. Candle wax will work, paraffin wax will work. There's different, even WD-40 will work, but I'm telling you, you'll like wax better. Champion has Brute Lube, that just from Champion cutting tool. This stuff works really well. But anyway, it will keep your burrs free from filling up with aluminum bits. So highly recommend that. And then tip number five is your battery. Now, this tool is going to run you about $179 if you buy the tool by itself. So this tool, like this, no battery in it, going to cost you $179. Now, if you buy this in the kit where you get the 2 batteries and the charger and the beautiful, handsome bag, that's going to run you like $259. So another $80 going to give you two 2.0 amp hour batteries, and the charger and the bag's going to run you $259. So a little better deal if you're needing batteries. But anyway, so that's the deal. Again, 3 speed modes. Hey, we think it's a great tool. Now, if you're trying to replace a tool like this or a plug-in version of this tool is not going to do that. Quite frankly, you can see the difference in size, see the difference in voltage, you see the difference in motor size. This is just not going to be able to keep up. It's not meant to do that. If you're trying to replace your angle grinder, you know, your 4.5-inch angle grinder for cutting steel, this is not going to replace that. Is this a great supplemental tool for cutting, deburring, for sanding, different types, cleaning up metal, things like that? Yeah, this is a great tool for that. We can see it very handy. Is it a great supplemental tool to keep from having to grab an air hose, drag it across the shop, get under a car, what have you? Yeah, it's perfect for that. So it does have its place, but by all means, it's not a heavy-duty cutting tool. So just remember that when you're getting frustrated trying to cut through a piece of 1/4-inch plate steel. It's not meant for that. So if you stay within the bounds, if you will, and those 2-inch bits and roll lock disc, things like that, I think you're going to be happy with this tool and understand its limits. Price, decent price on this, and you get a 5-year warranty from Milwaukee on it. So make sure you check it out from Milwaukee Tool. Again, it's the model 2486, and it's their M12 FUEL 1/4-inch straight die grinder. Also, keep track of us on Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter. If you don't mind, would you hit that like and subscribe button? Only if you like this video. If you didn't like this video, by all means, give us that thumbs down. But would you let us know in the comments why? Have a great day and keep smiling.